Okay, I took an example from Analytics Vidya and I'm just showing you. So look at this particular graph. Okay, so this gives you a good understanding. Okay, good understanding of what I was talking just now. So when you have very less number of features, when you consider only less number of features, your hypothesis also will be very simple. And when you try to fit a line, that line may not be a perfect fit through the data, and it will give you a good amount of both training error as well as the testing error. Okay, but let's say I have considered good number of parameters, a good number of features, or I can say right number of features, and tried fitting a model, and that model might give me very less amount of training error as well as a testing error. Okay, now this is the third part where I was talking that when you consider more number of features, assuming that you want to reduce your training error a lot. So in order to do that, you are just considering more number of features into your model. What will exactly happen is that it will try fitting exactly through the data like this. It will try fitting a perfect hypothesis for the training data such that the training error will be zero, almost zero. And when you have a new sample point, when you have a new X and you ask it to predict what is the Y, then this model will actually fail to predict. So you can say that here the training error is almost equivalent to zero, okay, or negligible, but your testing error will be very high. Okay, so all your further test data predictions will be like completely wrong. Okay, so that is the problem with respect to the overfitting and the underfitting part, right? So what I would like to show you now is that okay, so few more points on like how to avoid this underfitting and overfitting is that I'll just quickly write down few points. Maybe you can also try out when you're trying to do some example experiments. So yeah, so underfitting, like I said, it happens when you have less number of features into consideration. Okay, when you have less number of features into consideration, this can happen. And also that when your sample size, or I can say data set size, is too less. Okay, when your data set size is too less, that means you have very less amount of training data, then also underfitting can happen, because the reason is that the model didn't get sufficient number of samples to train itself properly. So in that case also you will have underfitting. Okay, now what will happen to overfitting is that overfitting will happen when you try to consider all features or almost all features. Okay, when you try to consider almost all features and do that, then you will actually end up doing overfitting. That means your training error on the training data will be like almost zero. Okay, but your testing error that you get will be like very high. Okay, it will be very high. Now why is this happening is that because you are considering all the features. So now how to avoid overfitting? Okay, how to avoid overfitting, so how to avoid, in the sense like you need to eliminate the unnecessary features. Okay, you need to eliminate the unnecessary features from the dataset. Now how do you find unnecessary features? Is again by plotting correlation. Okay, take some correlations. Okay, and also you can apply PCA, okay, which is nothing but principal component analysis, and try finding out the independent features. Okay, try finding out independent features. Okay, these are important. Okay, independent features are important. So try finding out independent features. The reason I'm telling you is that when you have like completely dependent features, it is like a redundant feature in the dataset. So you don't need that kind of features. So you need to find the principal components of that particular dataset, and giving it will actually help you in reducing the complexity of the model, because you are eliminating half of the features. Please understand one thing. The moment you consider more number of features into your machine learning model, it is like you are increasing the dimensionality of the model. Okay, because every feature is nothing but a dimension. Okay, so as you keep taking more number of features, it is like increasing the dimensionality of your model. So as the dimensionality increases, the complexity of the model also increases. So in order to reduce that, you need to eliminate certain features which are not required for you to consider. So again, the elimination cannot be like random, and you cannot eliminate just like that. So you need to apply some statistics part to that, and then see which are important, which are not important. So based on that, you take a decision and eliminate few columns. Okay, so for that reason, we can go for some correlation covariance and then apply PCA, or you can even also apply SVD also, singular value decomposition. Both are actually dimensionality reduction techniques. So you can apply these features, and then based on that, you can take a decision like what to be considered and what not to be considered. So doing such will actually help you to avoid overfitting. Okay. Now, when you have underfitting, how you can avoid underfitting is that, consider more number of features into your data, into your training. Okay. Try considering more number of features. Now, again, how do you consider more number of features is again based on your correlation and covariance. You need to identify which are the important features that are contributing to the result, and based on that, you consider those features into the training. Okay. Now, you can also ask me a question like, what if the sample size or data set size is too less? See, when the data set size is too less, what you can do to avoid this is that apply sampling techniques. Okay, there are many sampling techniques. Okay, or I can also say that you can also introduce noise. Noise in the sense like trying to replicate the same set of rows but with different values. Okay, maybe introduce some different values and try increasing the size of the data set. Okay, so these are not only the ways, but they are few. Okay, these are few things that you can actually try doing when you get overfitting or underfitting. Now, apart from that, we have also something called as lasso and ridge regression. Okay, you also call them as L1 and L2 regularization. Okay, lasso and ridge regularization techniques are there. Now, what is this regularization techniques tells you is that, let's say when you have overfitting, so I was telling one way is that you can actually eliminate the features. Okay, eliminate the features. Now, but certain people will argue that eliminating some features sometimes may also lead to a poor accuracy of the machine learning model, because there are high chances that sometimes a feature might be important and by mistake we would have dropped it. Okay, there are high chances that an important feature might have been dropped by the techniques like PCA or SVD or whatever it is. It might be dropped. Okay, so people also argue that, instead of dropping a particular feature, what if we are giving less weightage to that features? Okay, what if we are giving less weightage to the features? So what do I mean by that is that, so in our example earlier, we have seen that if I have a hypothesis like this, okay, if I have a hypothesis like this, theta 0, theta x0, theta 1 x, x1, theta 2, x2, and so on. Okay, let's say if I don't want to give much weightage to x1, so what I'll do is like, that means I'm saying that this x1 feature is not very important in predicting. So instead of dropping this feature, what I will do is like, I will still consider this particular feature into my training, but I will reduce the theta value to a very small value. That means let's say I will give it a value like 0.0002. Okay. So what is this theta? Theta is nothing but like acting as a scalar, right? So the moment I reduce the theta value to a very small number, the effect of this particular feature in the overall result will be very less. Okay, so hope you got the point. So it is nothing but giving weightage to each and every feature. So whichever feature I consider it is more important, I give a good weightage. Whichever feature is having not that good contribution towards the result, I will give a very less weightage. So the moment we give a very less weightage, the advantage is that we are not dropping the feature exactly, but we are just trying to reduce the impact of that particular feature on the overall result. So this type of techniques are called as regularization techniques. And under regularization techniques, we have something called as a lasso regression and lasso regularization and ridge lasso regression and ridge regression, which are also called as L1 and L2 regularization techniques. Okay, so I want you to take a look at these two techniques, because this will help you in balancing both high bias and variance. Okay, so L1 and L2 regularization techniques will actually help you in balancing both high bias and variance, in the sense like it will help you to balance both overfitting as well as underfitting. Okay, so please take a look at this. It's actually out of scope right now in my series, but yeah, this is also one of the important topics which you can take a look, right? If you have any further questions with respect to the regularization parameters, then you can definitely call me. Okay, so this L1 and L2 regularization will make use of a parameter called as a lambda. This lambda is called as a regularization parameter. So that will decide like whether to consider the features into the training or whether not to consider the features into the training. So I would request you to please take a look at them as it is important. Okay, so I hope I have given you a good understanding on like what is this overfitting and what is this underfitting and how to address them when you have that kind of a scenario, and why both are actually not recommendable in designing a machine learning model. We need to strike a balance between both and try to find an optimal ML model that will give us a better accuracy in terms of the predictions. Okay. So before jumping into the naive Bayes, let's take a look at how to implement logistic regression with respect to our Titanic dataset. Okay. So let's quickly open the so this is my logistic regression part. So I'll quickly change the fonts to the logistic regression code. Okay, so I'm just again taking the CSV files, both training and testing both files, and I'm just trying to run it. Okay, so you can see that the training data is having around 891 rows and 12 columns. Okay, so the shape is 891 comma 12, and I have also described like what all things are that are available. So passenger ID, survived, P class, name, gender, age, siblings and spouse, parts, ticket number, fare, cabin, and embarked is the position where they have boarded. Okay, so you can also see a rough description of like what are all the different 5-point summary that we have for the data. Okay, and let's just quickly look at what are all the different columns that are there and see if there are any null values. So when I tried doing this is null of train.sum, you can see that age is having good number of null values and cabin is also having good number of null values. But please look at this particular thing. See, this is a point where you have to observe. Okay, the total number of rows in this particular data set are 891. Okay, so out of 891, if age is missing for 177 rows, maybe yeah, we can try filling it up with some value. Okay, with some statistical value. But out of the 891 rows, if 687 rows are actually having null values, then there is no point in considering this feature for our model, because the reason is that we cannot train a model on null values, or I can take a different cabin number and I can insert the values. That is also possible. But the problem is that the data set then again will become biased. So in order to avoid both the situations, what we can do is like we can drop this particular feature. It is not necessary for us to consider this particular feature. Okay. And similarly, embarked is having two null values, which is okay. We can fill with some value there. Okay. Now how to fill the missing values. Okay, that is one of the important steps in pre-processing. So let's say age is having 177 null values. Okay, so what we can do is that either I can take the mode of the age, mode in the sense like the most repeating number in the age column, and try filling that number in all the 177 null value places. Or what I can do is like I can take an average of the age and put the mean value or the average value in the 177 places. That is also another way. And another way is that I can also take a median. Okay, I can also take a median and see fill the 177 null values with a median. Now which is giving you a better result, that you have to try out and understand. Okay, but in certain cases like this, let's say for age, okay, what you can do is like you can try fitting a normal curve. You can try fitting a you can try understanding the distribution of the age and see if it is actually like very much skewed onto a particular side. Okay, now based on the skewness, you can take a decision whether you have to fill it with the mean or the median. Okay, but right now I'm not doing that. I'm just showing you how to replace the training value, missing values. Okay, so what I did here is like for the train.age, okay, on the age column I tried finding a mode, and mode I got it as 24. So 24 is the age which is most repeated there. Okay, now what I tried doing here is that I tried plotting and see like how one feature is actually playing an important role on the survived class. So please understand, in Titanic dataset, survived is the label that we need to focus on. So what I did here is like based on the gender, based on the sex, I tried plotting who has survived more. Okay, so according to our movie also, we know that the importance is given for female and children. So you can see that between male and female, more number of passengers who are survived are female. Okay, and male are significantly less. Okay, another thing that I have did is using the bar plot, I just tried identifying which class people have survived more. So we all know that there are three classes in Titanic ship, so which is first class, second class, and third class. So which class people have survived more? So you can see that the first class people have been given more preference, and comparatively to the second class and comparatively to the third class. Okay, so I tried just visualizing here so that we will get a good understanding on which are all the features like which are very important when we are trying to predict the survival of a particular passenger. So now we understand that gender and passenger class are very important in our predictions. Okay. Now, similarly, coming to the rest of them, this particular code will allow me to understand like if you're having siblings and spouses. Okay, if you're having siblings and spouses, depending on how many siblings and spouses you have, what is the level of your survivability, whether you will survive or you will not survive. Okay, so that is what I have done here. And then now how to replace the missing values. Okay, so in this case what I have done is I tried filling the missing out values using the median. So how do we do that? So train.age, in the train of age, that means in the age column, I'm trying to take the function called fill na. Fill na is nothing but filling the missing values function. Okay, so in this particular column you fill all the null values with what? Okay, with what? So what are we trying to do? We are trying to take the age median and give it to the function so that it replaces all the null values with the median. Okay, now please understand, when I do the replacement like this, on the training data, it is also required that I need to do the same thing on the testing data also. So see if there are any missing values in the testing data. If there are, then you have to do the replacement on the testing data also, because ultimately our model, whatever we train, we will be ultimately testing it on the test data. So we need to do it on both. Now, similarly, since we know that the embarked column is having two null values, okay, we are trying to replace those null values also, right? So for that, what I have done is I have identified how many people have boarded in which place. Okay, so that's what I have done here by just considering the shape of that particular column. Okay, so what I did here is like I understand that the embarked column will have only these values, either S, C, or Q. So what I have done is I have taken the count by calling the shape function. So we will know like what, how many number of people have boarded from Southampton, how many people boarded from Cherbourg, and how many people boarded from Queenstown. Okay, now since more number of people have boarded from Southampton, what I did is whatever are the missing values in the embarked position, I replaced it with yes, that means Southampton. Okay, now this is also one way that we can do. So what I try to convey here is that, see, it is always not necessary that you need to fill it with mean, median, or mode, or whatever statistical measure. You need to apply your own logical thinking here and see which is a perfect way to fill the missing values. So this is where all your logic lies in treating the missing data. And that is why I said that the pre-processing is actually like very important when you give the data to the machine learning model. Okay, now ultimately coming to the next few more features, I'll quickly go through them. So P class, passenger class, I have changed with the mode. Okay, and like I said, we don't need certain features. Like for example, I don't need cabin, I don't need ticket, I don't need name. So I quickly dropped them. So please understand, when I am dropping, I also have to drop it from the test data also. So I did a drop on both the training and testing data. Okay, so I dropped 3 columns, right? Now in the age, what this code does is that it will try to change categorical data to numerical data. So like I said earlier, when you are trying to give your data to the machine learning model, you need to make sure that your data is actually in the numerical format, okay, not in the categorical format. So you can see that in our data set, the gender, that the sex is actually given as male or female or so on. So it is basically a categorical data. So what I have done here is like I have just taken a dictionary mapping. Okay, so if it is male, I'm converting it into 0. If it is female, I'm converting it into 1. So I'm just replacing the names with the numbers here. So you can see that once this step is done, the gender is actually now having 0, 1, 1, and 0, and so on. Okay, now similarly, you can also see that in the embarked column, we also have ESC, ESS, and so on. So this is also a categorical data which I need to convert it into numerical data. So for that reason, we converted again the same thing using the same dictionary mapping. So yes, I have taken as 1, C I have taken as 2, Q I have taken as 3. Now once this is done, you can see that all the features are actually in the numerical format. But one thing that you have to observe here is that if you look at the age is between some 0 and 100, let's say. Okay, whereas your passenger class is only 1 to 3, passenger ID can be like 1, 2, and so on. Embarked is again only 1, 2, and 3. And you can see the fare is actually in like some dollars, thousands of dollars, and so on, right? So you can clearly distinguish here that all the parameters that we considered here are not falling into the same scale. So like I said earlier, you can apply some kinds of normalization techniques and bring it into a simple range. Okay, bring it into a simple range. So for that, what I did is that I applied a min-max scalar function. Okay, so like I said, the min-max scalar function is available in the scikit-learn pre-processing class. So you just call the min-max scalar. Okay, and you just apply on whichever functions you want to apply, like whichever columns you want to apply. So let's say I want to apply on age and I want to apply it on fair. I called both of them and then I tried transforming them into a lower value. Okay, so this is called as the min-max scaler. Okay, it's not just about min-max scaler. We have something called a z-score normalization and some other normalization techniques. You can apply whichever is a perfect fit here. Okay. Now once that is done, I also don't need fair, the ticket. So let's say I have removed that also. I don't need it. Okay, I don't need it further, right? So once all that is done, I think there's a small mistake here. After the normalization is done, I think here again this is gone. So I think I didn't rename directly. Okay, but anyway, it's just fine. Just see through that. There is no mistake here. But what I thought of showing you here is that you can still apply a minimax normalization like this and bring it to a better scale so that your accuracy is better. Okay. So once all that is done, I'm also dropping the passenger ID because it is no more required, not necessary. So now this is our final, sorry, this is not our final, this is the test data. Okay. Okay. Now this is our final matrix. This is our final feature data that we have. Now from that feature data, because when we are training, okay, because when we are training, and like I said, when you are doing a validation test on your data, during the validation test, you should not give the class label. Okay, you should not give the class label. So for that reason, what I did is here, from the training data, I have dropped the survived. Okay, from the training data, I have dropped the survived class. So this column is dropped. So all the other columns will become my feature vector. Okay, so predictors are nothing but my feature vector. Now what is the target? Target is the survived class. Okay, the survived column. Now again, I'm doing the same thing. Train test split is what we have to do. So I'm just dividing it into 80% and 20% here. Now once that is done, you have to call the logistic regression function here. Okay, call the logistic regression function dot fit, and you pass on the X train and Y train. Okay, so this will train the model. Okay, once the training is done, you have to predict. So for predicting, again, I'm calling the logistic regression dot predict, and I'm passing the xval. Xval is nothing but the validation test, validation training data. Okay, based on that, I'm getting the Y predicted. Okay, now once you get the Y predicted, what we have to do is like we have to see what is our accuracy score. Okay, we have to see our accuracy score. So how do we calculate accuracy score? Is that we have accuracy score as a function in the sklearn metrics, call the accuracy score. And for accuracy score, like you know earlier, what we have to do is like we have to pass two parameters. One is Y predicted, and Y val is the actual Y value. Okay, so we are passing Y value, the actual value, and the predicted value, and I'm multiplying it just with 100, comma 2 indicates that I'm rounding off it to 2 decimals. Okay, so I want it to be a percentage, so I'm just doing it multiplication with 100 and rounding it off to 2 decimals. Okay, so you can see that we have got around 81.22 percentage of accuracy. Okay, now this is our logistic regression model. Okay, another thing that you can actually try to plot is like the confusion matrix. Okay, hope most of you might know the confusion matrix already. Confusion matrix is basically between true positives, true negatives, false positives, and false negatives. Okay, so basically this will try to help me to understand what is the precision and recall of my model. Okay, so I don't want to explain what exactly is a precision and recall. You can take a look at it. Okay, but this is purely based on like how your model has actually performed. I mean, like it's like telling how many samples it has correctly classified and how many samples it has wrongly classified. Okay, so precision and recall will help me to understand that. So yeah, so once that is done, what are we supposed to do is that once my model is ready, okay, I need to take the test data. Okay, I need to take the test data. So I have taken the test data here. Okay, this is my test data. The following here is my test data. So you can see that in test data, I don't have the survived column. Okay, I don't have the survived column. So what are we trying to do now? I'm trying to predict. So logistic regression model that we have developed dot predict on the test data. Okay, but in the test data, I am dropping the passenger ID and passing the other things as the feature set. Okay, because in our training data also we have dropped the passenger ID and we have passed the other things as the feature set. So here also I'm dropping the passenger ID. Okay, so if you pass that, so output you can obtain it in a data frame like this. So output, how am I printing is like the passenger ID and whether he has survived or not from the predictions. So this predictions come from here. Okay, so you can see here that I have printed the output here. Okay, so for each passenger ID, whether that particular person has survived or not is given here. Okay, so hope that code actually helped you to understand a few things like how to do cross validation, like I mean how to do training and testing split, and then also to tell you like how you have to convert some categorical data into numerical data, and why normalization is also important in order to achieve a good accuracy. Okay, so one thing if you want to try out is like one thing that you can do is like instead of converting categorical data to numerical data, try giving the data set just like that. Okay, so I think I also have done that, so I'll just quickly show in case it is available. It's not available. Okay, there's some problem with this particular notebook. I was trying out. Okay, so one thing that you can try out is like don't change any categorical data to numerical data, and don't apply any normalization, nothing. Try taking as many features as you want, and then try doing a logistic regression part here. You will see that your accuracy score is like very bad. Okay, it will come around like 50-60% or something like that. So once we do all this stuff and then see, you will get around 81.22% and so on. Okay, so what I would suggest is like since you know like how the code is actually working, I would like you guys to actually tweak in the code and then see if you can actually improve the accuracy from 81.22% to a much more higher value. I'm pretty sure it is actually possible, because I have not done everything like very properly. This is just for the explanation purposes. So if you sit more time and then analyze the data and replace with proper values and take good normalization techniques and other stuff, the accuracy will go much better. Okay, so I want you guys to take a look at that. Okay, so now the call will actually drop and then we'll reconnect back again and we'll see what is Naive Bayes algorithm and K-means clustering algorithm.